Hello and welcome back to Uplift Lifestyle podcast. I am delighted to be sitting here today with Dr. Dorree Lynn. If you are watching on YouTube or listening on Uplift Lifestyle podcast, thank you for spending your time with us today. This is a conversation unlike anything I've had on the podcast yet. So, Dr. Dorree Lynn and I met at the beginning of this year. It's 2025. It's the end of 2025 as we're recording. We met on vacation, and it was a really unique time and moment because it was just the two of us at the front of the boat, and we just were magnetized to each other. We're like, "Ooh, like let's connect, let's chat, let's have a quick drop in." And immediately, I don't know how long time completely dissolved, and we just sat out there basking at the front of the ship, talking and talking and talking. And I felt inspired to gift you a copy of my book, Unfuckwithable. And you had your business card with you, I think. And you were
hmm
like, or you slid it under my door or something. You somehow got me your business card, and I didn't really know much about you. And immediately when I looked at your business card, I was like, okay, yep, thank you for holding it up. It's it demonstrates the career that you've had, the career that you have, the highly impactful human being that you are in the world. There's you being having the PhD, having the practice. There's you working with the clients. There's you writing multiple books, speaking on TV, breakfast television, being this media talent, being someone who's an expert, a sexpert in sexual health, in intimacy and relationships. And so I was like, well, of course we hit it off then. That makes sense. And it's been throughout that vacation, we would hang out and chat here and there. But then it's been many months since, and we would text, we would have phone calls, we would connect. And we wanted to sit down for a conversation like this where you can share with my community more about ascendancy, which is the term that you are describing as aging with zest and life force and vitality. And as we speak right now, you are 84 and a half years old in human years. And when I met you, I mean, I knew you were older than me. I'm 30. I was 30 at the time.
I'm
But
older than almost everybody around, honey.
yeah, totally. But I would have thought, like, you and I hit it off like we were friends the same age. You know what I mean? It's like none of that mattered. And I want to now turn the microphone to you, and I want you to share with us who you are in your words, not how maybe what your bio would describe on your website or on TV or in your books, but how do you describe who you are right now as you sit here before me? And what is this ascendancy and this aging with zest? And how can there's many of us are in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s listening to this and older, 70s, 80s, I'm sure. How can we really feel excited and ignited by the idea of aging, saging, and ascending?
Thank you, Ellie. And you know what I wanted to add was it wasn't just a boat. We were both on what was called a mind, body, spirit cruise.
Mm.
And that in and of itself, I think, brought us together,
Mm-hmm.
and that's been a long developmental part of my own life. And I do see life very differently at this life stage than I do or did at yours. And you and I were talking previously that I came up in a different world than you are.
Mm-hmm.
Not that there weren't people who were just as involved in some of what you beautifully teach. And you do. You are talented. That was one of my thoughts. What a lovely, in depth human being. And we were drawn to each other, which was fun, really fun. And I think at this stage of my life, I'm a great grandmother, which is a lot of life experience with a tribe in my family. I've been married more than once with a tribe of about 11 grandchildren, I think, of
Wow.
different cultures. This is interesting. Different cultures, different backgrounds, different histories, different colors. So we have our own little United Nations that, uh, as a family. And then I, uh, I found that each life stage brought something unique, challenging, fun, sometimes hard. Sometimes there is sorrow. I mean, that's part of life. And learning how to get through that and use it and grow with it is what I would hope most people would do. Not avoid it, but that's part of life. You go with it. And you and I share something. I was very fortunate. I worked hard, but really not toward a goal. I just worked, and a lot of things happened. Um, ag- Agents came to me. You know, I was so naive in a way that I didn't realize what a gift it was when a book agent, I just wrote about it recently and I was surprised. Uh, I didn't realize that this book agent came to me and asked me to write a book. And I actually turned her down 3 times because I wasn't particularly interested in what she wanted. And ultimately, I wrote it and it was a successful book. That was my middle book called When the Man You Love Is Ill. I'll show it to you.
Hmm.
We'll do a little
Hold it
history.
right up to the camera so we can
It's
see it.
got notes all over the front and little.
Mm. When the man you love is ill.
And I opposed using the term man.
Mm.
I lost that battle. I will never lose a battle again like that. But it was when women wore so many hats, they would lose their heads. And if someone got sick, they would be the caregiver. And on the whole, more often men would leave. That was just a fact. So the whole PR team thought, oh, well, Oprah will grab this or something. Done, gone, over with, next. Interestingly, though, now I am dealing with a spouse who is ill, and I'm writing about it was easier than doing it, but it made me very knowledgeable about what I had to do for myself.
Mm.
But I think each life stage brings with it a connection with the universe, with energy. Uh, as you know, I've lived all over the world, studied, taught, consulted in India. Uh, and without travel and without awareness of what goes on in the world, I think many of us risk getting stuck in stereotypical ways of thinking.
Mm.
And I was telling you that I'm redoing a website. I'll put in a plug. It's called Dr. Dorree, the Sensual Sage. I went from being promoting sex. I worked with Dr. Ruth, and I was the sex expert for AARP in America, and had my own show. Uh, but sex is more than intercourse. Sex is how we are in this world and how we find pleasure. It's an energy form. So with with added years, I've gained wisdom, and I just see life through a different prism. Um, and each life stage is exciting. What would you like to know?
Okay. Thank you for sharing all of that and sharing a little bit about your story. And even just in those words, I think those of us listening are already feeling these unlocks of feeling like this sense of an exhale and safety and excitement about what life gets to be like. I know when I met you, you made me excited for the rest of my life.
Thank
And
you.
truly, you're beautiful to look at and
Thank you.
you're beautiful to be around. And there's a zest for life that you have. And then when I started to kind of research you, I was like, oh yeah, like that word zesty and like sensual and just there's like a fiery energy about you. And it's no coincidence that at 84 and a half years old, you're going to Pilates, you're keeping up with the 25-year-olds, you're writing like every day I'm getting in my inbox, like I can't keep up. I'm getting a Substack, article from you. I'm sure working on books right now, and you're really reintroducing yourself into this new paradigm and this new world where there's so much information accessible at our fingertips. And human beings really need to cultivate their own sense of discernment and their own attunement to their own frequency and what's correct for them, free from conditioning, to be able to identify what information they're reading on the internet or in a book is pure and true and real. And you overcame a lot when you were my age and introducing yourself into the industry on TV, writing books, publishing, working with an agent. There was a lot more, I guess, barriers that you had to overcome for sure. But there was also this, it was almost like if a book was written or there was a article out, there was this like sense that you could trust that a professional or someone that wrote that had the evidence, had the life experience. It was very legitimate and there was a sense
Thank
of
you.
trust. And now I think it's an amazing thing, but it's also has a dark side. It's amazing that anyone can just start writing and speaking and sharing. That's incredible that it's not being gate kept the way that it was. But on the dark side, it's more challenging to identify with the overstimulation and over consumption of information. It's more challenging to filter what's true for you and what's resonant. And that's why my entire body of work and everything I do in my life's work is about supporting us into having our own sense of self and our own insourced power free from conditioning. And when we can operate from that foundation, when we read something or hear something, we have we our own north star is like, yeah, that feels true. That feels good. That feels correct. Or it's like, that's not it. So I want to hear about when you were my age or my stage, maybe we'll say. I'm just married. I'm young in my career, even though I'm successful. I'm still new here. Um, and you kind of know some of the desires and the dreams and the destiny that I know I'm destined for. You came up in a very different time, but can you take us back in time to that life stage for you and what was true for you at that point in your life, even if you see it differently now?
I grew up, I'm going to tell you a story. I was in the second grade. I'm not digressing, but I was in the second grade. And as one would in the second grade, the teacher went around the room, and I'll make this fast, and said, "What would you like to be when you grow up?" And everybody said, doctor, lawyer, all the men, all the boys, doctor, lawyer, Indian chief, all the girls wanted to be nurses, teachers, and secretaries. That was kind of
Mm,
the era. We're talking now 1940s and 50s,
mm,
just post Second World War. So I have a lot of knowledge about culture. And
mm,
I had just learned about the how you make tunnels. I like the idea of science and energy and the intersection. I know you do as well. And my language is sometimes a little bit different, but I do understand what you're saying. And I had just learned about how tunnels were made underwater. This is a
mm,
wonderful story about how somebody can influence someone. And I realized that water was eternal. This is a 7-year-old mind.
mm,
I don't know where, although I think I was born with a curiosity gene. And so it came to me, and everybody was saying the same thing. And I said, I want to be a raindrop. And because it occurred to me that raindrops could be eternal, they could be good, they could be evil, they could put out fires, they could feed reservoirs. I didn't know if I don't knew reservoirs then. And of course, the whole class laughed. And I've always given that teacher credit for literally saving my life. I
mm,
think as a 7-year-old, I might have shriveled and been afraid.
mm,
And she instead took me aside, and then we don't have to go into the rest, but nurtured me, gave me
mm,
books, etc. So I tell you that story because I think we are all unique creatures,
mm,
beautifully unique creatures. And the world, in different ways, conspires to try and make us the same.
mm,
Instagram, um, quick fixes, um, glamour, all of which is lovely. We've both experienced aspects of that. That has very little to do with the essence of what a person is and
mm,
who you are, whether you think of it as an individual or as part of a greater whole.
mm,
So when I grew up, to answer your question, uh, I wanted to go to college. I wanted graduate school. I considered medical school. I didn't choose that for many reasons. And that was a battle. I had one very famous school uh, say to me, "We don't care if you're Phi Beta Kappa, you're married, you're going to have children, don't bother." And that would never happen today,
mm,
and it was pre-women's lib. I didn't even know to fight. I just said, "Oh, okay, I guess I'll go to a different school," which I did.
mm,
So
mm,
that's some of the difference. And some of it was a lot of luck, good energy, and some was determination.
mm, totally.
Some, as you would say, was just organic. It happened.
Mm-hmm.
But it
Mm,
has to happen if you have to be available for it to happen. I was going to say, one of my biggest messages to young people, two things, is courage doesn't happen in a vacuum. Courage happens when you're afraid and you do it anyway. That that whatever fear is for you, whether it's a gulp in your tummy or your throat or your sweat, or you say, "No, I can't do this," and you say, "Ah, I'm going to do it anyway." And
mm,
hopefully you have your posse or your tribe or your friends with you. And that's the biggest difference with high achievers with people who succeed. They're human beings like you, like me, like everybody. Nobody is that special. They do it anyway. And you help facilitate that.
As you were speaking, I was getting emotional when you shared the raindrop story because there are people in our life that,
It makes me want to cry.
yeah, I'm like crying over here because I'm thinking about my parents. Like, I am who I am because I had parents that were like, you can do and be anything you want to be. And I love that you had that teacher that sensed your curiosity and uplifted you instead of tried to put you into a box. Because when you're that age, it's a lot harder to have your own sense of, I'm going to do it anyway, courage, right? When you have someone who sees the light and sees the truth, then I'm sure you've had many, right? Being a woman in a male-dominated industry, overcoming what you've overcome, being a trailblazer, being an innovator, you've had many people try to put you in a box. But because when you were 7 years old, you had one person who was like, I've got you. I love that we're just acknowledging that person because I don't think that it's a coincidence that you are who you are. And many of us maybe didn't have that teacher or that parent or that person when they were young and they just got, like you said, shuffled into the box the way Instagram or the way, like you said, quick fixes, and it's just like, you're young, you're old. Oh, you're this age now, so now this is what it has to look like for you. Oh, you look like that, so that's what your life story is going to be. Whatever. And when you see someone, and I know people see this in me, someone who marches to the beat of their own drum and doesn't really have any issues with confidence, it's by there's many factors. I had the parents that I had. I was had that foundation, but there have been many things in my life that could have easily put me back into the box. But I was like, no, hell no. So when you shared about courage, what's something you've had to be courageous about? Because someone might look at you and your life and go, seems like she just knew who she was and was doing her thing. Were there moments that you can recall that stood out to you in your life that you were like, oh my gosh, that would have been a very easy time to go back into the box, but instead I moved beyond the fear? Like, what has challenged you intensely in your life?
I think much of what I've done has challenged me. And
Mm,
I'm so glad you raised that because uh, we do look at people who we see as successful very often, and it's promoted in today's world, in today's very rapid world, which I have many opinions about, um, that people look as if they're perfect and they've never had struggles. That's not true. It's simply not true.
mm,
And I will tell you a recent um, difficult time for me. I I was born and raised in city atmospheres. I was more born in Manhattan. I have lived on a farm. I did raise all my own food organically. I'll put in a plug for good living if you'll let me, because I do think that one reason I'm as healthy as I am is, and it's no guarantee that anything might not happen today, tomorrow. You know, we take each moment with grace, gratitude, kindness, preciousness, every moment. Um, but I was living this successful life as the world would see it. And I said to myself, I don't think I'm going to age very well at this pace.
mm,
And I started to look elsewhere. And that took some bumps, some bad, some not successful decisions. I moved out of Washington, D.C., and I didn't move. I bought a second home in Florida, not realizing that I was not a good fit for where I was, and then started to look around. But I moved at 76 to Charleston, South Carolina, which my northern high energy, very successful friends thought was a very strange thing for me to do. And were not very supportive.
Mm,
I didn't know a soul. I had come here. It had many things that seemed to suit me well. And I have never looked back.
mm.
So that might answer your question. It was scary.
Yeah.
There were some nights I didn't sleep. I wondered what I would do. And I thought I would retire. Instead, I got refired.
Mm, mm. I
But I
love it.
did need a break. And interestingly, I did get married,
Mm.
was not looking to get married at all. In fact, when I met my husband, I told him I would never get married, ever, ever, ever. And it's one of the better things I've done.
Mm. Oh.
I will tell you something that I did out of fear, and actually,
Mm. Please.
um, and I don't know, one can call it fear or courage or whatever. It was during COVID, how we got married. It was during COVID, and I had been invited to quite a humbling and honored experience. I was invited to a writers and artists workshop that I hadn't even applied to, and they had
Mm.
met me and they said, "Come." And of course, I was about 30 years older than anybody. It was in Maine, on an island in Maine, in the middle of no place, and I wanted to go, and it was COVID, and travel was a little bit scary. And I realized I was going to live with this man the rest of my life.
Mm.
And after telling him I would never get married, I realized we had done all the paperwork to protect each other. But I realized that if one of us got sick, we wouldn't be able to visit each other in a hospital because the rules were that tight. So he came home on a Monday. I still remember his face. And I looked at him and said, "How would you like to get married?" I thought he was going to faint. We were married. I'll skip the rest. We were married that Friday night that
Wow.
week by the person who had introduced us. I
Mm.
left on Saturday for 2 weeks. And I think when you and I met, I consider my honeymoon many years later.
Oh my gosh. I love that. So when you're sharing and speaking, we're all getting this sense of who you are and how you've lived. And like we spoke about Instagram earlier, it's impossible to share everything in a condensed form. And I know as a writer and speaker myself, I get ideas all day. It's nonstop. And I just, as a channel, I want to say it. And that was burning me out slowly, feeling like every idea and every inspiration and every message needed to be given. And I started to shift from the constant sharing of it to just letting it be me and be my truth. And even if that means that I'm misunderstood along the way, I'm okay with that because I know
Mhm.
what I know. When you're sharing and speaking, it's obvious you know so much more than can be shared in our short conversation.
Thank you.
But is there something that you feel we need to know? as an opportunity to share your voice right now with thousands of people, imagining, and I know you're intuitive enough to imagine the type of person that's got their headphones in right now and listening. What would you say to them?
I think that one of the beauties of life is that we have a core center that is us, that is our North Star. And sometimes we don't get to know that for many years. Sometimes we are fortunate. I think if one holds true to who they are, not in a narcissistic way, but in an invitational way, as you do, um, one is always a teacher and a student. You're always educating, and you don't know who's going to take your message positively or negatively. And you're always a student. And I think that one of the most important things in life is to surround yourself with people who are, I call it a posse. You don't need a whole, you don't need to be loved by everybody.
Mm,
And in fact, the more open you are and the more overt you are, the more you're going to be liked or disliked. And that's not very important. What's important is to love deeply and fully, which many people are afraid to do because love always has pain, always. You can't love without loss and pain. I say that as a wife, I say that as a parent, as a grandparent, it makes me want to cry, as a great grandmother. You, 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 you can't protect against loss, but you can't let loss or the fear of loss keep you from loving.
mm, yeah.
And love does matter. Kindness does matter. And there's a lot of brutality in the world, as you and I both know. And each of us can be responsible for what we give out, whether it's in small ways to the people around us, in larger ways, if we have those skills, whatever it is. Uh, we have that ability to make that choice, to stay true to our core beliefs. And what I would say to a young person is don't try to be loved by everybody. That's not important. And I don't care how many Instagram followers you have. If you don't have genuine love and growth in your own life, like a tree, you will shrivel. You must, if if I could tell a young person, which I do all the time because they listen to me because I'm not their mother, aside from talking, even in my yoga or my Pilates or whatever, um, they listen to me because they look at this little tiny woman. I'm small. I'm about 100 pounds. And they look at me and they say, God, she's in there with us. It's hard work sometimes.
Mm,
I would say build your foundation now. Honor your North Star and be willing to let it shift. You were
mm,
kind enough to tell me that even in the since we met, you have shifted
mm,
and grown. And I said to you, I am both an expert and a neophyte. I'm constantly learning,
Hmm.
especially around technology, but
Mm,
constantly learning. And sometimes I'm privileged to be able to have people listen to me because I have something to say. But as a young person, believe in yourself. And when you don't, have a support system that helps you.
hmm.
None of us are meant to be totally alone.
Who is your support system throughout your life?
Mine has altered. As I have changed, mine has altered. And I'm at an age where one of my own challenges is that many of the people who have been important to me my whole life
Mm,
are now deceased or caregiving others. That's part of the life stage in
mm,
one's 80s, 90s. It
mm,
can be a life stage at any point, but
mm,
it's more prevalent now. So those who I hold dear, I hold close.
mm,
And one of the reasons I'm rebranding myself, to, so to speak, as the sensual sage is it's important to me to regain new friends who are appropriate for who I am now and
mm,
not to hold on to people who haven't grown in the same direction I have. Not that
mm,
they haven't grown, right? That's a judgment I would never make, but we're no longer people who can support each other's growth as I want to grow.
mm.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, and I think light bulbs are going off for people, and I always really encourage you listening as Dr. Dory is speaking and as I speak on this podcast, and you're hearing a personal share. It's like, where in your life can you resonate in such a deep way that you actually make a change, that you actually take a new action, make a new choice? And in this specific example, no longer hold on to those and that in which is not growing in your direction. And that's that North Star that's knowing you. I have one last question, even though we could go on way longer.
I would love that, you know.
My
You
last
know that I
question,
respect
I
and
know.
admire you, Haley.
Thank you. Thank you. And I feel that, and I feel seen by you. And
Thank you.
yeah, you're really important and special.
Thank you.
I have one last question. As you've saged and ascended, and as a normal person would say, as you've gotten older, but I'm
I
not.
like the idea of ascendancy better.
I like it too. As you've ascended and saged and grown wiser, what have you gotten better at in your life? Doesn't have to be your career, could be, but like, what are you just like, I get better at, maybe it's placing a boundary. Like, what are you getting better at as you ascend?
I think that raindrop, that 7-year-old raindrop,
Mm,
has become more of a flowing river.
mm,
Depth, and by depth, I really mean authenticity. You can use depth as a careless word. I think relating to people, which is how we connected, for who they are and what they offer, not, to quote T.S. Eliot, not the face that meets the face.
mm,
We all do that to some degree. We all know how to maneuver through life. Some know more than others.
mm,
But I think my priorities have shifted so that what who I have in my life is far more important than what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Although
Mm.
I do cherish being able to share the journey because I know that this is, I know that my whole life, I used to look at women about 20 years older than myself, 10, and I think that's a good thing to do to have role models.
Mm-hmm.
Say, how have they gotten here? What are they really like? What can I learn? And what can I learn that's different? Not to model oneself after someone. Ooh, did you get that? Or did I?
Nope, you're here. You're here.
Okay,
Yeah.
we just got vertical.
Oh, we're here.
You're far better with technology than I am. I have an assistant who kind of helps me limp along with modern things that change every week.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting thing, Haley, that I just I woke up yesterday and wrote an article about it. I'm diverting a little bit. And I had to call the drugstore. And after 15 minutes with AI, I said, this is easier for them, but it is not easier for me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think, I do think in our very rapidly changing world where AI and technology exist rapidly, it's very important to learn to keep our humanity and our human connections,
Yeah.
such as what you, such as we have and such as you are trying to do with so many and become a coach. And I do think this is crucial. I do think if one is a teacher, you will be taught. There's a line from The King and I from Robert Rogers and Hammerstein. If you become a teacher from your students, you'll be taught. And
Mm.
I do believe deeply in my soul that maybe one of the hardest, if not the hardest issues in life, and life does throw curveballs that are painful and difficult and that are unexpected. It, it's always learning to keep one's individuality and one's essence and still be open to what the world offers and
Mm.
what is given and presented to you. And that's always shifting.
Mm-hmm.
And for that, one needs to be a little bit more like a willow than an oak and
Mm-hmm.
bend, but with
Mm-hmm.
deep roots.
Yeah. To close out, I love that you mentioned this, and I want to say a few words on it. So, because that's something I reflect on a lot.
By the way, I'm feeling emotional talking about that.
I've been feeling emotional this whole chat with you. It feels special in a very visceral way. And I see you and I love you.
I love you too, honey.
So, this is real. And the mention of AI, it's something that even though I'm young, I struggle with because it feels very off to me. My entire book was written purely by literally me sitting down and writing it. No chat GPT, no AI. I don't have chat GPT on my phone. I don't use it. I've been given so many opportunities to integrate AI into my business, and it doesn't feel correct for me. And I got to a place where I decided I would rather not grow exponentially at the rate that's possible if I integrate this AI. I'd rather not, and I'd rather follow my North Star, which is how this all started, which is me sitting down with a camera, even if it's not the best camera in the world, or me sitting down with a microphone and speaking purely and truly, human to human, soul to soul, spirit to spirit. And I don't want to go on a whole tangent about it, but I just, like you said, with the technology ascending quickly, maybe I don't want to call it ascending, but rapidly evolving, what's needed now more than ever is human connection. I can't tell you how happy I am and I'm 31. I can't even imagine how it must feel when you're 84 and a half. I get so excited when I call someone for help. Say you're calling the pharmacist, I might have to call, my phone provider. And if a real human being answers, I'm so happy. I'm so grateful. If a robot answers, I hang up. I'm allergic to it. I literally can't go there. And although if you're someone like me and someone like Dr. Dorree in the sense that human connection is really important to you and what's real and authentic and true is really important to you, don't fall for the illusion that we're going to fall behind or that we're going to be irrelevant or that we're not going to keep up. Because where there is all this technology and artificial intelligence and all that's going on, the human beings, no matter what their story has been in their life, their soul, their spirit, and their humanness craves and needs humanity, craves and needs connection and truth and love and kindness and oneness. And that's the only thing that's helped me feel so at peace with my choices to stay very pure in the way that I communicate, in the way that I do my life's work, is because I know that while that's all maybe happening over here, people are going to always require what I have to offer, which is pure truth and human connection. And I've implemented a few technological things, like I have a podcast and whatever, but otherwise, I'm like really stripping it down, really simplifying, really just sticking with how it is. And if that means that maybe it's a slower trip to the top of the mountain, I would rather that than losing myself and outsourcing my intellect to some sort of programmed robot speaking in my tone. That doesn't feel good to me. I'm me. If you're listening to this and you know who you are, and this is resonating, what we've just spoken about and the essence of what you may be feeling as we're speaking, how can you be more human? How can you be more real? How can you be more connected? How can you move with a real heartbeat and honor and cherish your humanness, honor and cherish your soul, your spirit, your truth, and get really discerning about what is not of that frequency. So it's not like a judgment to anyone or any anybody that is utilizing AI in that way. If it feels resonant and good for you, that's awesome. Because I know that there are things that are technology that I use, right? Like I texted you the Zoom link, and that might have been like very new for you, but that feels good for me. So everyone has their own, I guess, barometer of what innovation feels good for them. But I
I
really,
think it's a
really,
question
yeah, go.
of learning who you are And I'm just to piggyback on what you're saying, and it's not denying what is offered,
Mm-hmm.
because as with most things, there's good and not so good, but
Yep.
it's learning how to use it for your own good, for your
Yep.
own persona, for your own energy, for your own interconnected energy in the world. We haven't talked about I know we share an idea about energy and energy fields. So it's not denying it, but it warms me to hear someone of your age want to help people with their humanity, humaneness,
Mm-hmm.
and understand how to use what is offered. I mean, the world continues to change. We have airplanes, we fly. These are it's
Mm-hmm.
better than, in my opinion, than crossing a country on horseback. Horseback is
Mm-hmm.
fun, but not to cross a country for me.
Yep.
But it's learning priorities and
Mm-hmm.
priority shift.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I didn't expect us to talk about this today, but I think that it's so aligned with ascendancy saging life stages to talk about technology in this way. And I'm gonna give a prompt to you listening. Send me a DM, send me an email, reach out to Dorree. I'll link all of your information as well.
Thank
I'd
you.
love to know how you feel about this and what your perspective is. And I'm doing my best to not be closed-minded to what's offered, as you nicely put it. But I am also very, very clear in my priority to stay true to what feels correct for me. So I do want
That
to hear what everyone thinks about it.
I think my experience of you, Helly, so I can put in a Helly plug if I may. Uh, when we first met, your aura, whether one believes in it as literal or light, seemed very present to me. And you have a mission to share that in whatever way as you keep changing and growing. And that's beautiful. We need that in this world. To me, the best way to counter um, not technology, technology has its place. It's done wonders and miracles, particularly
Mhm.
medically, etc. But people are at risk of losing their humanity, their ability to love, their ability to connect. And without connection, all studies show how do you get old, well, and healthy? The single quality is the quality of your relationships. Now, it helps to keep moving, it helps to eat well, and you can read about that all the time. It helps to be sexual because that keeps your neurons going, your happy hormones. But the quality of your relationships is what matters in the end.
Mm, that is such a perfect, pure, powerful, and true place to say goodbye, to close this out. I would love to keep connecting with you, but I'm going to be spreading my light with a client very shortly. So, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for listening, for receiving, for learning, for growing, for evolving with us today. Dr. Dorree, thank you for who you are in the world and for being so real, so true, so you for many decades and for still holding it down and doing it with so much zest and so much authenticity and power, purity, and truth. at this life stage that you're in. Thank you. I love you. I honor you. And I'm so happy that we finally sat down to do this and to share this with our communities.
It's been my privilege, truly. You are a gem, and keep that light.
Mm,
And if it falters, ask for help always. That's what I would offer to people.
mm,
One is never too put together, too old, too grown to ask for help. We all need help in this world.
yeah, thank you.
Somehow we were brought together, Haley.
I know. I know. Somehow we were, and I'm so beyond grateful.
Me too.